and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show YouTube channel. The best way to support the show on this YouTube channel is to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and or share it with a friend. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode in whichever way you choose to support the show. I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I hope that today's message and episode brings some bit of positive change to your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show. I am your host, Emily Hayden, and for today's interview, we have IFBB Bikini Pro, FitBody Fusion athlete and coach, Hana DeVore. She is into biohacking, bodybuilding, functional, flexible dieting, nature, cold showers, strong mindset, and so much more. Today's episode is going to be jam-packed of so many things that will help you, regardless if you are a competitor or not. She believes in just holistic, whole, all around wellness and health from the inside out. So let's go ahead and welcome Hana DeVore to the show. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you because, I first came across your Instagram, it had to have been in like 2013 or something, or maybe 2014. And I came across you in the IIFYM flexible dieting days, like anything that fits your macros goes. I was doing the same thing. And it's funny because you posted something on your story the other day where you shared a meal that you used to eat. And it blew my mind because you're so far away from that now. And I am myself. So it was kind of like this flashback memory of why did I think that was a good idea? Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just really cool to see your evolution journey and, just how far we both come since then. So can you kind of take us back to beginner competitor Hana when she was first getting into everything, when you were first getting into dieting, and just tell me about your food choices, tell me about your competition journey and just some of the things that you went through in order to now evolve into who you are now.
Sure. So, which by the way, if I ever share old meals or old silly things I used to do, it's so that we can all learn from my mistakes.
Yes.
I'm trying to make it easy for everyone. I'm like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to go through the whole process that I did.
Yeah.
Just look at this, look at these things I used to do, recognize that they were wrong. I mean, I'm completely fine with self-deprecation if it's for the sake of helping other people.
Absolutely. I feel like that's why we make mistakes, is so that we can share it and be like, hey, if you don't want to make this one, you don't have to, right? Yeah. It's still your choice. Yeah. You can do it if you want, but we're letting you know where this road leads.
Yeah, exactly. And if I can help one person to avoid some of the stuff that I went through, I'm happy. So, let's see. So I'm 35 now. I started bodybuilding. I started lifting when I was about 23 or 24, somewhere in that area. I was in a pretty bad relationship at the time, and I think subconsciously I was looking for something to help me feel stronger, something that I could do on my own, something that was not going out and drinking, which is what I had been doing. I just knew that there was a better way. So I used to live in Tiburon, which is just over the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco. And it's just this tiny, sleepy community. And there was this little gym that was always empty. So I was like, well, screw it. I'll try in here. There's, I'm not going to embarrass myself. There's no one here. I can try picking up weights. And, I had started looking around for some inspiration. And when I was looking at these physiques that I loved, these women, I realized that the common thread was that they all lifted weights. I was looking at Amanda Latona, Jamie Easton, and they all lifted weights. And I was looking at them going, there's no way. You're not bulky. You're beautiful and feminine. So I got into it. And of course, when you first kick off a fitness journey, if there wasn't what you were doing before, typically your body responds pretty well.
Right.
So it was pretty easy to get a response out of my body. I also had a 24-year-old metabolism. So the first couple of years went really well. My body responded like crazy. Initially I jumped into clean eating, which back then there wasn't really solid information on what was clean, flexible, IFYM, micros, macros. It was all over the place. And I didn't have too much info to go off of. So I started with what I thought was clean eating, restricted a whole bunch of foods, basically put myself on a meal plan. You know, here's what I think I've seen on bodybuilding.com or whatever, you know, okay, I eat the rice, I eat the broccoli, the chicken. So I just did like the most basic diet and I cut a lot of foods out. And then I ended up, because I was inspired by those girls like Amanda and Jamie, I ended up going to an IFBB competition just to watch, just for fun. And I met Jamie DeBernard there, our wonderful coach. And I started talking to her. She took a look at me and she was like, you're kind of almost ready to compete. So I jumped in with her. And then that was really, as soon as I joined with her, that was where all of the learning happened and really where the journey really truly started.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I remember you because you were one of the like OG FitBody Fusion girls, you know?
Yeah, there's a couple who've been around longer than I have, but I think I'm at 7.5 years now with Jamie.
That's incredible. Yeah. And I think, you know, your relationship with her and your evolution of your journey just speaks to, you know, how important it is to stick through the mud when it gets muddy. And, you know, if you know that you're in the right place, if you know you have the support that you need, you know, and everything that you're needing from a coach, you know, client relationship, if you have that, to stick through the hard moments, because now where you guys are at, like, it's such a beautiful thing to witness where you're at in your journey, and just the fact that you've been able to, you know, be with her this whole time and her be there for you. I think it's, you know, really something that you don't see too often. Like, a lot of people, you know, kind of switch left and right between coaches all the time, trying to figure it out. And I think the truth is sometimes you have to go through those hard moments together and figure it out together, you know, as a team in order to come out on the other side of it. And there's obviously other reasons for, you know, leaving coaches. I've had to switch coaches a few times myself, and sometimes you just aren't getting what you need or whatever reason. But I just have to say it's really cool, because it's kind of rare to see that in the industry, that you've been with, you know, together for so long.
Yeah. I was careful with that process. When I was looking around, I interviewed all the top teams, all the top coaches at the time, some of which are still around. And I just wasn't really finding a fit. And I was on the verge. I knew I was on the verge of leaving that relationship that I was in. And I was starting to feel, well, actually, no. By the time I hired Jamie, I had left. But through bodybuilding, I was starting to feel stronger and more confident. And when I found Jamie, I had already talked to a whole bunch of coaches, and I had been developing boundaries and strength, honestly, probably through bodybuilding. So when I talked to these coaches, I was going, that doesn't look right. That's a no for me. Nope, that's a no for me. And finally, when I found Jamie, I just knew that it was gonna be right. And actually, I came to Jamie looking for someone else who's not around anymore. And I was asking for her, and she was like, well, you know, why don't we talk for a minute? And then we ended up going into her office and we talked for, I think, like 2 hours.
Wow.
She put me on stage 2 weeks later, and I won the San Jose championship.
That's awesome.
And then we went right to nationals. And when I was at nationals, I got on stage, I looked out, and Amanda Latona was sitting there smiling at me. And I was like,
that's dope. Yeah, that's really cool.
But yeah, Jamie and I have, I think I could say that we've learned from each other. Her and I have both been able to just try different things. We've both had times when we were both stumped. Of course, like, a human body is very complicated. My biology is very unique. My biology is different from all of her other clients. And we've had to learn some pretty interesting lessons. And we've discovered things together, you know, about my physique. But I mean, just right off the get-go, when I joined with her, my mindset about so much about food started to change. Like, I remember I called her and I was like, how many protein shakes am I supposed to be drinking every day? And she was like, I mean, 0. She was like, you can use them if you're in a pinch, but she said, why don't you just eat real food? And I was like, wait, I don't have to do this? Because bodybuilding is telling me I have to drink a protein shake at least once a day.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And she was like, eat food.
Yeah.
Like, so, and even just little lessons like that, you know. And then she dropped the restrictions on my food, and she let me learn my own lessons really with food. And she could have restricted foods. She could have told me what not to eat. She could have given me a meal plan. And the fact that she made me figure it out myself, I'm extremely grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
She let me learn some of my own lessons. Like, yeah, I did IIFYM, a dirtier version of IIFYM, where I was kind of just eating whatever I wanted to hit my calories.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn that lesson, you know?
Okay, just for fun, what's some food or meal that you would go to for like a, calculated refeed day in your dirty IFM days? Can you remember anything that like stands out?
Ice cream, Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
I still, for like a refeed day, sushi always.
Mm-hmm.
I still do sushi. We had sushi a couple nights ago. That's always going to be a big one for me. I'm never getting rid of that.
Yeah,
no
100%.
But it was just Oreos, donuts. I was made to believe because back in that time of bodybuilding, we were kind of all made to believe that like donuts were just a regular part of fitness culture. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but it was like every day we were all just trying to eat donuts. I'm so sick of donuts now.
Even like protein donuts, right? And then people are like fitting these protein donuts into their daily diet as like a daily item that they always have. And I always think like, it's not that these things are bad per se, but on a daily basis, do we really need to be filling our food and our body with these things on a daily basis? No, that's not what I want my body to function or run off of.
Yeah, we are the sum of like our health and our brains, everything. We're the sum of what we regularly do, not the thing that we maybe do once, but what we regularly do. And I was regularly just not really eating the right thing, but it was working. The messed up thing is that in the short term, it works. If you're hitting the right calories, which I was hitting, at different times, if I was hitting pretty low calories, even with these foods, I was still getting shredded. So in the short term, I thought it was okay. And then you have to kind of wait for that delayed effect, because that long-term effect is coming. It's just like, when is it going to?
So take us to that point, so you're doing the dirty IFYM, and then you kind of reach a point in your journey where you realize my body's not getting what it needs nutritionally. What was that point like, and how did you start to educate yourself into, the holistic way and the methods that you use now, as well as, if that kind of leads us into biohacking, let's go ahead and get into that as well.
Sure. So I made it all the way through getting my pro card, feeling and looking really good. And I was, towards the time when I got my pro card, which was in November of 2015, I was definitely focusing more on nutrients, vegetables, plants. And I wasn't doing it too dirty, but I certainly wasn't, where I am now. But I mean, Jamie got me we both got my pro card, prepping me on 1900 calories. I'm 5'2". Like
that's amazing.
I was responding really well. And then, so I got the pro card, kind of took a quick break. And then we were like, okay, let's jump into a pro show really quickly, because a lot of the time, like, you kind of want to jump in, establish yourself, let them look at you and just say, here's how you rank against the actual pros now that you're in this division, which is a totally different game. So I went to jump into that, and my body was like, oh, no. You've been prepping for a pro card. You've been doing national shows. You've been doing regional shows. Like, we're done. And we couldn't quite figure out, well, actually, so first I had committed to these shows and I really wanted to do these shows. And so we just started. It was just hard for me to lose weight. It was just tough to get any sort of tightness going. I didn't look very tight. I was looking very watery. Think of like your worst period, that kind of bloat and water weight. That's what I was experiencing every day. So we pushed for these shows because I wanted to push. And at the time, the Keto Diet was starting to get some traction and get some media coverage. So basically we just said, well, pulling carbs to drop water could be a good move. So let's try keto. So I jumped into that. And I mean, I did it like full keto, like not like, oh, I'm going to do keto. Like I actually tracked the macros.
Into ketosis.
Yes. Like I actually was in ketosis. I was tracking against a certain number, of fat grams, carb grams, didn't do net carbs. I went full steam ahead, and my body was also then like, no, that's not happening.
Your body's like, immediately no.
It was just immediately no. So, and maybe I dropped a little bit of water weight, but really I learned my lesson, which is that, I'm kind of a carb monster. Like I don't need a whole ton of fat, and I don't feel great on a ton of fat. So basically right after those shows, which didn't go too well, I went to Jamie and I saw her in person, and she was looking at me because usually, we do our remote check-ins, which is, you're not always getting the full picture. You can't really see how someone's moving. You can't really see all the angles. So I went and saw her, and as soon as she saw me, she was like, this is hormonal. Go get your hormones tested right now.
Wow.
Because she saw me holding water in places I'm not really supposed to be holding water, or that I never had previously. And she knew my body very well. So, and I knew I wasn't feeling great. Things were just off. And also keep in mind that some of this could have come from diet. Some could have come from training. Some could have come from stress. And also I was on birth control since I was 16 years old. So my hormones had already been messed with since I was 16.
Wow. Which I think a lot of people can relate to. I think a lot of people early on just get on birth control, and they don't understand truly the effects that it can have on your body. And what you're saying is so true, because like our bodies as females are so incredibly sensitive to certain things that you didn't have just one thing going on, like just being on birth control since being 16 years old, but you actually had all these things, right? The training, the cardio, the dieting for a prolonged period of time. And people don't realize, they're always like, oh, why are you in this spot? And it's like, well, if you look at all of the markers of what would cause hormonal fluctuations or changes or sometimes problems, I hit every single marker. That's why, because, I've been on the same journey as well. So I fully get what you're saying.
Yeah. So I just want to say that because I wish I knew exactly what it was, but regardless, yeah, it could have been any number of things. So I went and did a hormone test, and I got a write-up from a functional doctor who I did not go to a primary. I went to an actual specialist, and I got the write-up. And pretty much everything was off. I was estrogen dominant while still having estrogen just in the gutter. Somehow I was still dominant. My cortisol was in the tank. I had produced so much cortisol, and I had been so stressed in one way or another, which, by the way, when people think of being stressed, stress can also come in the form of many things. It can come in the form of training. You might mentally feel okay and still be stressing your body out. And that was a lesson I had to learn as well, is that stress is not just, I'm so stressed today. It can actually be, stress is diet, stress is training, stress is not sleeping. There's a lot of different forms. So my cortisol was out of whack. DHEA was out of whack. They did mention adrenal fatigue. There was a whole lot going on with adrenals. And then, progesterone, estrogen, TSH, like everything was just not where it was supposed to be. So I am how I am because I come from an interesting childhood. My dad is 80. He is really healthy. And as far as I know, since I've been alive, he has not been on a medication, been to a doctor, had a surgery. None of those things have happened. He doesn't have a primary doctor. My dad will always tackle things naturally. He's from Hawaii. He's very like Hawaiian. Like he grew up in a family that basically they worship the earth and the different elements, and nature is very important. So he has always tackled everything naturally, and it's worked out really well for him. And I grew up watching that. So as soon as I noticed that something was off, I immediately snapped into that mode. Just what can I do myself? What can I do naturally? What can I do without medication, without having to turn to Western medicine? If I don't have to, I'd like to avoid it. And I knew that there was something I could do. So honestly, I just dug in. If I had a half hour on the treadmill, I spent that half hour reading studies or watching some video or some podcast. I got really into, I mean, really at the root of a lot of this is Joe Rogan. His podcast, which didn't used to be what it is now. His podcast really used to be comedy, science, and health.
Mm-hmm.
And the guests that he was having on around the time that I was dealing with this was like Rhonda Patrick, Ben Greenfield, like all of these biohackers. And really, that was what made me realize that there was more that I could do on my own, with lifestyle changes, diet changes, habits. I started off with something as simple as hitting the sauna 3 times a week because Rhonda Patrick had explained all the different reasons why it's so great for us, And so once you kind of enter that world, you just start going down the rabbit hole and then you kind of just can't stop.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I think what happens is you start to realize how much you're actually in control of and how many things you could start to do that would really benefit you overall. So we're going into biohacking. Just could you summarize it for somebody that they're not familiar with it, they haven't heard of it? Could you just summarize what biohacking refers to and what it means?
Yeah. So biohacking, I don't know if there's an exact definition for it. I'm going to give you my definition.
Sure.
Biohacking to me is going above and beyond the status quo for the sake of your own health. Jumping outside of the box of what we're all told, at least, in Western medicine or just in current society, what we're told is health. Biohacking is a lot of the time the opposite. So I explain it to people like this. Say you're driving down the freeway and everyone is they're all just driving old Honda Civics and the bumpers are coming off and the tires are ready to blow and the end, and that's most people. They're driving down the road in that car. I am deciding that I'm going to drive down the road in a Ferrari.
Damn right.
And I'm going to fuel it with the right fuel. I'm going to add the right tires. I might add a spoiler. I'll add a different engine. I'll do whatever I need to do because I want to be able to drive 5,000 miles where someone else in their shitty little Honda Civic, they can maybe drive a few miles down the road where that thing might explode. I'm trying to go for a long time. So biohacking to me is longevity, and it's getting really creative with testing and learning. And it's kind of like treating yourself like a guinea pig. Obviously you have to have boundaries around that. You don't want to go too crazy. And of course, everything in moderation, but that's what it is. It's like, I'm refusing to live in this society as a sick, sad, tired person. I want better. I want better for myself. And so I just decided I'm going to get it.
What are some of those things that you've started to do? You mentioned like the sauna, right? But what are some of these like simple things that all kind of go into biohacking that have helped you to live a better, happier, more peaceful life?
So, well, first of all, our physical health and our aesthetics are nothing without taking care of our mind first. So our brain is really the foundation. And I learned that part of this was also getting my brain right. So there are a lot of things that I've done that are just for my brain that have actually benefited my body. Stress reduction, anxiety reduction, and then of course, like all of that leads into better sleep, more motivation and productivity during training. So that, like, I did start some of it with my mind, and that's still a priority to me. Like me being in therapy is going to be reflected in my physique. I promise.
Absolutely.
Like, our brain is the foundation. And if you think you can just gain, incredible aesthetics and just an amazing physique while not focusing on your brain, you're really wrong. So I focused on getting my head right. I focused on sleep. And really, one of the first game changers for me was when I learned that my liver was connected to my hormones. And really, our liver is connected to everything. But I didn't know that. I didn't know any of this. I didn't know how important my liver was. No one had ever told me that my body has an actual filter, like an air filter, and that if that thing is not working properly, you can imagine what's going to happen if nothing's being filtered out, which there are a lot of things in any given day that we're exposed to that need to be filtered out, whether it's coming from the food we eat, the air we breathe, the products we put on our skin. There's a lot. So the huge game changer for me was my liver. So I started to just try and take care of my liver naturally, which there's a whole bunch that you can do, and people are welcome to do their own research, but there's little things, even like milk thistle and dandelion root, pulling heavy metals, or like heavy metal detoxification, or you know, there's a bunch of different ways to essentially get those metals out of your system. But really it all falls within liver health. Even eating liver, like you can eat good quality beef liver to support your liver. So the liver is like an amazing rabbit hole that I would say people should go down.
I bet you have a lot of rabbit holes you could send people down.
I know. I'm like, oh, how do I even think about all these? So I started with that, and I really went after estrogen, progesterone, and trying to regulate my cycle, because I was just like on a roller coaster, and I really just wanted to get to a point where things were a bit more regulated. So around that time, I found Vitex. You know, Vitex is it's like chasteberry. It's a natural supplement that helps me to regulate my cycle, and it's made me feel 1,000 times better. And that's just something that you can get at Vitamin Shop, but that not every woman is taking Vitex, and maybe not every woman should, but that was kind of a game changer. And just learning about the different phases of my cycle really helped as well, because there are different things happening in those different phases. And that means that our bodies need different things during those phases as well. So my training intensity, how many grams of carbs I'm eating, what supplements I'm taking, seed cycling, like really digging into what my body needs at this given day in my cycle. That was a game changer as well. And at the end of the day, really journaling about this or logging it in some way was very important, because I needed a record of everything I tried, how I felt. I needed that biofeedback. So I tried to keep records of everything, or just notes in my phone or whatever about all the different things that I was doing. And I tried to log symptoms, good or bad, and then look for patterns. And that really helped a lot.
Yeah. Wow. So what I'm hearing from you is that it takes an immense amount of desire to educate yourself, and to actually educate yourself on these things, and then just a willingness to try different methods and to find out what works for you. Heavy importance on documenting everything so that you can always reflect and say, okay, like during this week, it was my follicular phase, right? And I did this work for me? How did I feel? What was my body's response after? How am I sleeping? How am I training? So I think, what you're doing is, most people will not do what you're doing, because it requires an immense amount of effort. Like, you are seeking to be the most excellent version of yourself in every single way. And it requires so much work and so much effort. And it's actually very well reflected in your physique. So all of the things that you're doing are actually like directly impacting your physique. So it may not feel like going to therapy is actually going to change how you look, feel, perform, train, and function, but it does. It's all a part of, the whole system. And I think that's why it's important to look at your body and to look at each person as a whole system, a holistic way of dealing with all of the different elements that make up what we are. Because if we just look at one element, like just food or just training, we're missing out on the things that make that thing work.
Yeah. I mean, everything is interconnected. And really, I think when I learned that, I learned that I couldn't just say, okay, I have an estrogen problem, let's just go after estrogen. No, it's that hormone is connected to every single other thing going on in my body. So yeah, it's complicated, and yeah, it takes a lot of work, but it's been really fun the entire time. I've learned about my body. I've learned so much about myself. I've learned lessons that I've been able to then help other people with. I've been able to pass those lessons along.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like you said, at one point, finally, then my physique started to reflect what was going on the inside. And I love the idea of starting from the inside out, which a lot of the time we don't see in bodybuilding. In bodybuilding, we see people only focusing on the outside, on the aesthetics. And then down the road, a lot of the time they end up needing to have then reactively focus on their internal health. So I decided that I wanted to proactively focus on my internal health, and got to a point really in the last year or so, especially, all of the things that I'm doing that I've just been adding to my list. Yeah, it's a long to-do list, but it's totally doable. All of those things, you know, I locked into that consistency, which is so important. You can't just take a vitamin for a week and decide that it doesn't work for you.
Right.
There are probably vitamins that I've been taking for 6 years that I am now finally seeing the benefit of. And maybe I was internally getting that benefit, but now it's like, wow, holy shit, this is really like I can see it, and I can actually show others. And when I post about my body, when like I mean, I hate that Instagram is like all we can really do is post pictures of our body. That's all that people care about. But I'm trying less to show off my physique and more to just show people that this is the physique of someone who's healthy on the inside. And I confirmed that because I've been staying up on my blood work. And when I recently got my blood work done, I mean, everything was just spot on.
Dang, how good did that feel?
It was awesome because I've worked for this. It was like getting a report card back, and it was like, you have an A+. You started with an F.
Yes.
And you worked on it, and now you have an A+. Like even like my own, you know, I work with Hormone Logics. I work with Joanna down in Hormone Logics, and she does everything remotely. And we jumped on a phone call to walk through everything, and there wasn't really anything bad to talk about. We just kind of talked about like everything was going really well. And she's like, hey, what are you taking for this? What are you taking for this? Because everything was just right on. But yeah, you have to work at it, and you really have to do your own research and then just listen to your body, because what works for me is not going to be what works for you. Like you eat different food than I do, and it works for you. And I'm not going to tell you how to eat because you know. So we all have to just do that research. Like I didn't really reach out to too many influencers. I wasn't really sending out a lot of DMs like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? How do you look so good? I was like trying to stay over on PubMed and like read actual studies, and then apply that and then see if it worked for me.
Yeah. And I have to say, one thing that I love about your social media, and it's actually something that drew me to you. And I saw a photo of it recently where it is a physique update, right? It's a physique check-in, and there's 2 photos, the, I guess, before and the after kind of thing. And I think one was like in season, one was like off season, and it shows these big numbers, right? Like 700 something and 800 something. And people probably look at that like, what does that mean? Right. And you read in the caption, you were actually sharing your progress of your credit score. And when I saw that, I just like lit up, because I've said so many times, I'm like, I wish that people cared about things that actually matter, because I was working on my credit score at the same time, you know, and seeing those increases, and it felt so good. And so I just love the fact that you're always promoting on your page, you know, whether it's about, you know, biohacking, or it's about, and to be fair, your credit score could be a part of biohacking, because with a better credit score, you're going to be a lot less stressed, right? You're going to have more freedom in your life, more ability to go and sign for something if you'd like to do that, or buy a house or get a car. And like that freedom is such a different life than when you feel so restricted and so tied down to things like debt and not having financial freedom. So, you know, I love that in every aspect of your life, you know, you're promoting, in my mind, the things that really do matter, which is health and wholeness and longevity in your mind, body, spirit, soul, and life in general. I think you're honestly like one of the best role models on Instagram. And I wish that Instagram would reward that, because I hate the fact that we are in this society and culture that rewards the biggest butt on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like, I wish that your platform was so much bigger, because I feel like that's the advice that people actually need. Like, think about the younger versions of us, right? The 15-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, if they were to get this kind of information now, they would be light years ahead of where we're currently at in our 30s, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just whenever I post about any of this stuff, it's just so that some 21-year-old girl who's just getting into bodybuilding can see it and go, oh, okay, I guess I don't need to worry about that. You know, I just got my answer, which is an answer that I had to seek out for years.
Right.
Yeah. And Instagram wasn't always like this. Like it used to be, you know, engagement and getting information out there used to be very easy. And it is pretty difficult now. And yeah, like, you know what we're up against. So I just do my best and like I said, if one person can benefit from it, then I think that that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking for constant improvement of myself, whether that is my finances or my career or my physique. I just want constant improvement. And so I think that's my driver.
So you just got engaged this year. Congratulations. Right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's so exciting. How long have you and Andy been together?
We've been together for, I'm checking the date, just over 4 years.
Oh, that's incredible.
He's just amazing. And he is the same way as well. And in terms of just always wanting to be better, which is why we see him having like 2 insane jobs and working his ass off. Like he worked so hard. And also he grew up in Buffalo food culture, which is pizza, wings, no veggies. Okay, I don't think that anyone needs a veggie. Like it's actually been kind of hard for me to even find vegetables at times. So he came from that and he decided that he wanted to be healthier. And so he's been on this journey with me, and I kind of like let him do his own thing because trying to tell guys what to do is not really my gag anymore.
Absolutely not. It doesn't work.
But what you can do is you can lead by example, you know, and I do it for him and he does it for me as well. And he's like there are things that I'm really good at that he's not, and there are things that I'm bad at. Like if he has to do PT, or if he decides that he has an imbalance in his body and he needs to do like stability or PT work, he will do it until the injury is fixed. And it's really cool. So like, and that I'm not great at. I would love to say that I'm better, and I am better at now that I have him, but I had to watch him do like hours of boring exercises and then see it pay off, and then see him fucking, you know, go into a wrestling ring and be able to do what he can do because he puts the work in.
Wow. So, see, yeah. And I think that's such a great example of, like you said, leading by example, whether it's you or whether it's him in different areas. And I think that's the way that true change and even inspiration to change for yourself can come, because a lot of people ask, you know, how do I get my boyfriend to work out, or how do I get my girlfriend to work out? And it's like, you lead by example and you live a healthy life, and they see the results. They see the fruit of your life, right? It's one thing just to tell people what to do or tell them how great these things are. But when they see the result of it in your life, when they see that you're less stressed and you're happier, you're more peaceful, you're more able to handle the things that come your way in life, they are going to be so much more inspired to find that for themselves. You know, people are motivated by results, not by just things that you say or cute motivational quotes that last like 2 seconds.
Absolutely. Which, by the way, like, it's funny. The other day I was thinking about Instagram, and I was like, are we all just passing along, passing motivational quotes around? Is anyone actually getting more motivated? Oh, like, you know, how we all love to repost like, you know, different like little sayings, you know, about motivation or inspiration. And I'm like, so we're all just passing these around, but I'm not sure if we're actually doing it.
You know, I gotta be honest. I definitely go through seasons of my life where I actually don't feel motivation, like literally at all. And I don't look for it. Like I've stopped looking for it because motivation doesn't really do anything for me, maybe like in a split second. But I know that I can always fall back on my discipline. And I've really focused on just creating discipline in my life because, you know, I look back at all the sessions I did this last week and I realized I was like, I was motivated for one of those double sessions every single day, for one of them over the last 7 days, which is 14 different sessions, right? So recognizing that, I was like, wow, can you imagine if I'd relied on motivation to do the things that I want to do in life?
But you did it anyways.
Yeah.
And doing the things that we don't always want to do, doing the things that are hard or painful, doing those things builds who we are. And I came from kind of a difficult childhood, and I've had some stuff happen in my life, but I know that it made me who I am. So I knew, I think deep down, that I could do difficult things, and that if anything, it would only make me better, you know? So, I mean, like, I have no interest in hanging out with people who aren't willing to push themselves or do the things that we just kind of have to do as adults. You know, that's why, like, when someone's like, oh, you eat beef liver, like if I'm talking about eating beef liver for my liver, because I know that it's going to benefit me. When someone goes, oh, you eat beef liver, doesn't it taste bad? Sure. I don't know. I don't like paying bills either.
Yeah.
I don't like putting my trash out either.
Right.
But I'm an adult, and I'm going to do the things that I have to do.
Right.
To, like, be happy, healthy, thriving, you know? So that's where I get a little bit like, I understand that this is all a lot for people. And I understand that there are people who are juggling a lot and who have kids, you know, like I don't have kids. However, I think that there is some point at which you just have to just do it, you know, and it's going to pay off. In the moment, it might not feel great. I have had plenty of cardio sessions and lifts where in the moment I was like, fuck this, and I don't feel like doing this. But I just, you know, you just do it anyways. Like you said, with, you know, with your sessions, like you just do it because you know that it's going to make you better.
Yeah. And, you know, that's the thing upon, you know, I'm big on reflection. So whether it's reflecting at the end of every day, at the end of every week or month, looking back at your actions and what it's producing in your life and asking yourself if that's what you want to continue to do. You know, so I look back over like the last week, right? And I'm like, I did not want to do any of that. I wanted to do one session, right? But I look at the results of it, and the results are, I am happier. I am less stressed. I'm doing better than I was. I'm experiencing already all of these amazing things. And while the work isn't necessarily too much fun, I'm not enjoying the work per se, I'm really enjoying the results that it produces. And I think that can help be your driving force when you lack motivation. So I kind of want to switch back into, you know, you share a lot about like breath work and nature. And there was even one post where you shared how you were in nature, getting your steps in while doing breath work. So talk to me about breath work, how it's played a role in your life, and also, you know, why it's been really important for you to get out in nature, especially given like the last couple of years that we've been having.
Yeah. So I do love breath work. And I think that breath work and meditation are these things that, which first of all can go together or can be separate. I can explain that, but there are two things that have been blown out of proportion in terms of how difficult they are. And I think that a lot of people are experiencing this oversaturation of, I'm just seeing breath work and meditation content everywhere. Depends on who you follow, but I mean, I'm certainly inundated with it. I'm here to tell you, breath work is literally just, we just did breath work. That is it. Like, pause, a long breath out. Like, there's different methods that you can use, but at the end of the day, it's just taking high quality breaths, and it's just taking the time to actually focus on your breathing and only on your breathing just for a second. And, or just, you know, a minute, whatever you can do. Like, it doesn't have to be an hour. For me, I do breath work. I try to whenever I think of it, and whenever I just have a minute that I can do it. I might be driving, I might be walking, I might be in a meeting listening to everyone talk, and I'm still doing my breaths. Which for me, I really prefer box breathing, which I do about 4 counts in, 4 count hold, 4 count out, 4 count hold, and I just keep doing that. So it's basically just a long breath with a hold at the top and a hold at the bottom. And that is the breath that I believe has been really celebrated for being able to get you out of fight or flight and into rest and digest. So those are 2 areas that you can be living in. You got fight or flight, not great, stressed, obviously, you know, you're not able to, your body isn't able to focus on what it needs to focus on when you're in fight or flight. So that's why, like, eating while stressed, it's not really going to work very well. Your digestive system is not going to be able to focus on it. So I try to get out of that, and I try to get over to rest and digest, which is where my body is able to pause, slow down, and run through the actual processes that my body needs to be able to run through, because it doesn't think that there's a lion chasing me. Mm-hmm. Because our body doesn't know. Our body doesn't know that we're not still out there hunting and gathering. Mm-hmm. And if I'm causing stress, my body's like, well, we're fucking running from, you know, from some lion right now. We're running from something right now. So we have to focus on this. My body's not doing anything else while I'm in that phase. Mm-hmm. So I use box breathing to get into rest and digest. I try to take some of those breaths right before I eat, make sure I'm in a good place. It's helped with my digestion. Mm-hmm. I use the breath just, you know, of course, during stressful days. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes I'll also pair it with meditation. And that's where most of the time I'm doing a guided one. And I'm using the breath to relax me and to focus on, but also doing the mental training that is meditation. To me, meditation is lifting weights for my brain. Mm-hmm. Again, doesn't always really feel great in the moment. You're like, this kind of sucks. I'm still thinking. I would rather be doing something else. I'm noticing all these weird thoughts coming into my head. This sucks. You know, you can have those thoughts. However, a week down the road, you might be in a stressful situation and go, oh, I just handled that really well. I wonder why. Mm-hmm. It's because you've been training. You've been doing your training. Meditation is not just for the moment right now. Mm-hmm. So I've really been loving it. I've been starting to take it outdoors, trying to connect with nature. I moved to this beautiful place in Buffalo. We have so much nature that I didn't even know about when I moved here. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in the desert. I grew up in LA. We don't really have trees, lakes. We don't really do that too much in LA. So when I moved here, I was just like, this is amazing. And I started taking my dogs on walks through the forest. And it's just really interesting what happens once you start doing that. You can't stop, and you become addicted to how good it feels and how good it is for you. The air is better. Mm-hmm. Your mind is in the right place. Mm-hmm. It's just beautiful. And all of a sudden you're noticing more gratitude in your life. Mm-hmm. You're noticing that you feel healthier. My ankles and knees actually feel better because when I'm walking on rocks and dirt, I'm having to stabilize the whole time. Mm-hmm. So what is that doing for my bodybuilding? I'm pretty sure it's doing really amazing things for that part of my life. So I think that there's a lot outside that a lot of us are missing out on.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for simplifying breath work, because I think it can be really daunting when you look at these 60-minute routines with these crazy breaths, right? When you're first trying to get into it. So I think it's great. I hope everyone can just practice 1 minute of breath work today, 1 minute, and just kind of start incorporating it in small ways. And, I do have to add to the nature thing. It's okay, by going out and being in nature and going for a walk, you are not doing what? What would you normally be doing during that time? And for some people, it would be mindlessly scrolling on Instagram. And it's you have to look at those actions, right? And ask yourself, what is this producing for me? Is it making you more numb to the things of this world? Is it making you more numb to your own feelings? And then what is the nature doing for you, right? Because I have similar, I'm sure anyone that goes out and goes for a walk in nature, you feel better, you feel more grounded, you feel more connected, you have hope and positivity back because you're getting vitamin D from the sun, right? And so I think it's, all of these small things go back into, that biohacking that you were sharing earlier, how all of these things play a role. And once you start to really recognize that, what you do is you start to intentionally live your life. I'm really big on intentionally living every single thing with intention, whether it's a conversation, what you do first thing in the morning, what you do right before you go to sleep, everything with intention. And I think that's what it all comes down to, is just intentional living, because truthfully, we only get one life, and why not live the best, happiest, healthiest version of you that you can possibly live?
That's what I'm thinking. I love that. Asking yourself, am I being intentional right now? And that would help me too, because I work a lot. I have this running to-do list in my head that I can never catch up on. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that it has been hard for me to be present, and that doing certain things, lifting weights, breathing, meditating, going outside, they force me to be present. And I need it because without it, I have a history of being a bit of a stress case. But with all of this, I have been able to turn that around and get to a better place. Mm-hmm. And yeah, for my cardio, I could walk on a treadmill and look at my phone.
No kidding.
And sometimes I do, you know, like if it's snowing outside, sometimes I'm going to.
Yeah.
But even like, man, even in the snow, I've been trying to get outside. It feels great.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, even if you are on your phone doing cardio, what are you consuming? You know, are you on YouTube listening to, yeah, right. Is it either garbage, or are you listening to something that is like inspiring you and motivating you, or like helping you to visualize your goal? You know, because even just intention of whose page you're looking at, right? Like always ask yourself, is this helping me? Is this making me better? Is this challenging me? Is it helping me to ask better questions? And if so, keep consuming it, right? But if you're, doing cardio and you're sitting there and you're staring at other people, and you're sitting there comparing yourself and you're saying, I suck because of this, or I'm not good enough, and these thoughts are coming into your mind, you have to be aware and present to that fact and to say, okay, I am going to love myself enough to turn this off. And let's see what I can turn on right now. Can I educate myself in a way that I can be better, right? Because it's not about this fake self-love thing of like, I just love myself no matter what with where I'm at, right? No, it's self-love is really learning to figure out like, how can I best respect myself, honor myself in this moment. And yes, accept where you're at, but with the desire and the work ethic and the intentionality to get better, because you deserve better, right? I think every person, like you deserve to live a healthy, happy, and a free life. And so I think what you can do is really look at all of these things that are in your control, because, life has really shown us a lot recently. There's a lot of things not in our control, right? There are things that will happen. There are life circumstances and situations that we don't have control over, but we do have control over where we scroll on our phone. We have control over if we go outside for a walk, if we put, something that is nutritious and healthy and going to make our brain optimize, be optimized. We have that control of what we put into our body, right? So what I'm hearing from you and the way that you've chosen to live your life is that you've just placed severe intention on every single thing that you do inside of your life, inside of your body, inside of your mindset. And what that's producing is so evidently clear on even just on your platform, but even just with speaking to you, it's so clear, like just how much you are living such a great quality life. So I hope that you always just remind yourself of that. Cause like, girl, you're doing it. I don't see many people doing what you're doing. And I just feel like you're freaking doing it. So I'm honored to know you. I'm honored to, have you on the show today and to learn from you. And I, thank you from myself and also all the listeners for the effort that you put into your posts, because I know that especially nowadays where social media, we get shadow banned and all sorts of stuff, it can feel hard when you're not getting that interaction that you're used to getting. So I hope you know that every post that you make is actually so valuable, and I hope you never stop because it's impacting me. So if I can be your one person, then I'll be that for sure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm trying not to just get wrapped up in social media, and so I'm not posting every day, but if I have something that I think is worth saying, I'll say it. And yeah, everyone's support really means the world. But really what means the world to me is the messages that I get from girls who are like, hey, I started eating this way because of you. And like my digestion is regular again, or I feel great, or my cycle is regular again. Like that's what I live for. So yeah. Thanks for putting this out there.
Of course. And so you're a coach with FitBody Fusion. How can people work with you if they're interested in working with you as a coach, and what kind of clients do you take on?
Yeah, so I am taking on lifestyle or transformation clients right now. So basically I'm not doing competition. I'm stepping back from that because like you're seeing in this conversation that we're having, I've really just grown to love lifestyle improvements. And that's really what I want to focus on. Like I love working with moms, people with crazy busy careers. I have a few nurses. I've got one mom who has 5 kids. I live for this, helping them find hacks to actually be able to wrap their arms around fitness and health while also tackling everything else they have has been so much fun. And a lot of the time, like you said, it's baby steps. Like just breathe for 1 minute today. Don't worry about doing an hour. I'm just looking for tiny improvements, because this much over time means this much. So yeah, so I love lifestyle clients. You can find, there's a link in my Instagram bio. My bio's, my handle is Hana _DeVore. It's HANA _DEVORE. And there's a link in my bio to the FitBody Fusion site where you can kind of learn about the team and then also submit an application. And then you'll basically be put in touch with me. And if anyone has, questions about that, they can DM me. I'm only on Instagram. I don't do Twitter. I'm trying to take care of my mental health.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Twitter's not been great for that. Well, okay. And I'll have all of Hana's links down below. So her Instagram, the application for coaching. So you guys can just check the description box on YouTube or also on the podcast platform, wherever you listen. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the listeners? Maybe a last piece of advice, maybe an advice for people that are just now getting into biohacking that might feel overwhelmed by it? What would be your advice to them?
I think that my advice across biohacking, fitness, lifestyle changes, diet, all of it, is to do what is best for you and to do it unapologetically. If you want to go to the gym because it's going to benefit you, and there's someone in your life who's saying, you don't need to go to the gym. Why don't you come with me and go to the bar? No, I want you to go and do that thing and stand by it. And there's never like sorry, I have to go work out. No, I'm going and working out because this is what's best for me. No, these are the foods I eat because it's what's best for me. And now that I'm 35, takes a while to get there, but mid-30s, boy, does that hit you.
I was going to say, I feel like your fucks that you give just go less and less and less every year.
Yes, exactly. It's a lot of the time it's just less bucks, really, but also like knowing yourself so well, and it's not up for discussion. Like my health is really not up for discussion with anyone else. So live it like unapologetically, and listen to your intuition.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Emily.
Of course. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Evolve with Emily. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor, share it in your Instagram stories, tag both myself and Hana. We would love to hear what your favorite part of the episode was. And also let us know if there's something from this episode that you're going to implement in your life, no matter how big or small. We would love to hear if this episode actually impacted you in a way that you take action in your life. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.